Hey, Lori, how you doing? Good to see you. You were Johnny on the spot tonight. Jane on the spot tonight. Welcome, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. You like this shirt? Check it out. Thanks, Zeppo. Thank you for ordering it for me. Yeah, no kidding. Where to begin? Where to begin? Holy cow. The understatement of the century, guys. The understatement of the century. Hey, Annie, how are you? Good to see you. I like the logo too. I was a little bit jaded in the beginning when we started talking about logos and this kind of thing and getting professional folks involved. But I got to tell you, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I like it. I like it. Hey, JPM, watched a couple of your videos today, man. I'm telling you, it's like 30 minutes of therapy. So keep it up. Keep it up. Hey, Amber, good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. We're going to jump into it here. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got some pretty serious storms on the way. I know this has been a theme every time we come on here, but I was watching Mr. Global's YouTube live earlier today, and he was talking about the heavy rain they were getting and that kind of thing. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. And thanks, Amber. And it's headed this way. So it's starting to darken out there, and we've got some thunderstorm warnings coming and that kind of thing. But I don't think it's going to hit till after we get the live done. So that's good. Hey, Nana. If you guys would, everybody, you know the drill. Just start hitting those likes on TikTok and on YouTube. And if you would, start sharing. Let everybody know we're here. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. I would call it hey, Vanessa, I would call it a potpourri of different things we're going to discuss tonight. So I really appreciate you guys being here. There's a real heavy rural focus tonight. I know normally that's our focus, but we kind of wander into other areas. Tonight, we've got a really heavy rural focus. There were some very specific attacks on rural America from the administration this week, and I want to talk about those. Hey, everybody. Thanks for all the personal hellos. I hope you're doing well. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about tonight. Lots to talk about. So just keep hitting that like button, and we're going to jump into it in just a minute. I want to make sure that we have kind of a peak crowd in here tonight, because some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight are, they're just absolutely disgusting. They're absolutely disgusting. And we have got to push back. I'm going to tell you how to do that. We're talking about attacks on children in rural America. And I mean, these go beyond just the budget cuts from the perspective, guys, of, cutting Medicaid and a lot of the other things that we're all worried about. Something happened in the last couple of days that was truly disgusting. And I'm going to try to share a personal story with you. I'm not going to go too deep into it because it cuts pretty quick to the bone, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to share just enough about it to tell you why this issue is so important to me. And maybe you can get something positive out of it as well. Thank you guys for the gifts. I appreciate it. But we've got a lot to talk about tonight. So I want to thank everybody for jumping in, and we're going to jump into it here tonight. All right, let's get started here. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about, and I know on, last couple of lives, I've gotten a little bit emotional, but the problem is, guys, is if you grow up in rural America, and this applies to everybody, but a lot of you that grew up in rural America, you know that a lot of the things that are happening right now, these cuts that we're seeing and these programs that are being cut, we have a lot of problems that exist all across the entire United States, but they're even worse in rural America. And the first thing I want to talk about tonight is a cut that the Department of Justice put in place. You may have seen my video about this yesterday, but it's a cut that the Department of Justice put in place this week, directed right at kids in rural America. And I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to tell you why it's so critically important that we push back against it. And I want to give you some direction tonight as to how you can do that. Some of you have probably seen this, especially if you're an attorney or you work in the legal field or you're involved with children. that are the victims of physical and sexual abuse, et cetera. And something happened this past week that I've got to tell you guys, it goes beyond just a budget cut. It's frankly one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. And I want to share it with you tonight. And I'm going to share a little bit of my personal story, but I'm going to try to just share enough that I don't get to the point where I get emotional like I did the other night. But I don't know if you guys have read about this, but the Department of Justice sent out a letter at the end of last week, followed up with it yesterday, basically telling this national organization called National CASA GAL that they were cutting their funding. I'm going to tell you what they do in just a minute, and I'm going to tell you what the ramifications are of these cuts that they put in place. But basically what they did is they sent a letter out to this national organization, National CASA GAL. If you want to go to the website and check it out while I'm talking about it, so you've got a better measure of what I'm speaking to, their website is National CASA, so National CASA GAL.org. National CASA GAL.org. And CASA is CASA. Hopefully somebody can put that in the comments for us on TikTok and on YouTube. This organization, CASA GAL, stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates and Guardians Ad Litem. Now, when I say that, a lot of you are going to immediately know what I'm talking about, because this group and ad litems are special advocates that are appointed to children when they've experienced multiple different forms of trauma. Sometimes it happens when you go through a divorce and a child is kind of caught in the middle between two parents who might be having a very ugly divorce. It can also happen when one parent is not a great parent and they need to appoint an ad litem in order to make sure that the best interest of the children are being looked out for in those situations. But the other thing that they do, and this is even more critical, is that they create programs and they advocate for children who have been the victims of trafficking, the victims of sexual and physical abuse. And they have a whole series of advocacy attorneys that are set up in a network across the country to advocate for them, especially foster kids. Nana makes a great point. And the other thing that they do is it extends even beyond physical and sexual abuse and being involved in really nasty divorces and that type of thing. They even have programs and advocacy. Let's say that you were out on a rural road or you're working on the farm and your child were to see an accident that left a really horrible experience ingrained in their mind. Maybe it was a car accident on a rural road where somebody's unalived, or maybe it's something similar to what happened to me as a kid when I experienced a farm accident. It wasn't just me that suffered, it was the people around me. And thankfully, neither one of my sisters were there when this happened to me, but they just step into that fray. They step into that empty void and they advocate for kids that are suffering from some of the worst forms of trauma that they could possibly have in their lives as a child. Now, the reason this particularly fires me up, and again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because I'm just like anybody else that's experienced this as a child. It's hard to talk about, number one. And number two, I get very emotional because I tell you guys all the time, I cry at grocery store openings now. I don't know what it is, but when I hit the age of about 45, I lost all control over my tear ducts. But I will tell you that as a young child, I was the victim of physical abuse, and I experienced it for several years. And like a lot of kids, especially boys in rural America, it didn't stop until I got to the age where I was big enough to tell the person that was inflicting this physical abuse on me that if they continued to hit me, I was going to whip their ass. I don't know a better way to put it. But when I reached the physical point, at almost 6 feet tall and, big, strong country farm kid, it got to the point where I could tell this person, you need to stop or I'm going to inflict some of that pain on you. Now, I will tell you, that's not the way a kid should have to handle it. That's not the way a kid should have to handle it. There should be advocates out there that recognize these things, that work with teachers and administrators at schools, that can step forward and advocate for a child like I was when these things happen. But unfortunately for me, I didn't get that. I basically I got big as a kid and I was able to put a stop to it. But these programs out there, the reason I care so much about the National CASA GAL.org programs out there is because that's not the way a kid should have to deal with it. If a kid is struggling with the ramifications and side effects of physical and sexual abuse, they ought to have advocates out there fighting for them. And then all of you also know that whenever I was a young kid at the age of 12, I got this arm caught in the power takeoff on a tractor and it was nearly ripped off. And not only did I go through the trauma of the accident and laying out on the ground for an hour and 50 minutes, waiting for an ambulance to show up, but I went through the trauma of having to go through, over 15 to 20 different surgeries over the course of my life to try to get better working function of this arm. And not to mention, I missed the last part of my school year in 6th grade. I spent the summer recuperating. And when I went back to school the next year, there were, kids are rough. Kids are rough. And they're especially rough on a big kid that's been injured. Every bully at the school was ready to get a piece of me when I got back. You know what I mean? Because they knew I was hooking with one arm, if you know what I mean. So there is that embarrassment that goes along with significant injury and that kind of thing. And then forget about when you get interested in girls, right? You're always worried, what are they going to think about me? Because I've got this, horrific scarring. And any of you that have ever been through any kind of trauma, especially physical trauma caused by an accident, burns, skin grafts, that kind of thing. And I try to leave this ace bandage off when I do some of my videos so people can see what happened, because I feel like it's important, especially when I'm talking about healthcare. But I got to tell you guys, I'm 57 years old and I still experience a little bit of shame and embarrassment when I go out in public and I don't have these scars covered. And it's not as bad as it used to be, because when I was a kid, it just seemed like everybody was staring and I noticed it, as a kid. Now it doesn't really bother me. Now it doesn't really bother me as much, but I still feel it. I still feel it. And when I look at a group like nationalcasagal.org, they are out there doing the work every day that I wish I could have had as a resource when I was a kid going through this horrific injury and suffering from physical abuse as a kid. Just simply put, they step in and number one, they stop it from happening. But number two, they work with kids to overcome that trauma over time. And there are a lot of benefits to this program. Okay. There are a lot of benefits to this program. One, the kids that go through these programs and have these ad litem attorneys and ad litem individuals fighting on their behalf and shepherding them through these trauma treatments, they actually get out of foster care and into permanent homes a lot faster than kids that don't get these resources. And this is the goal of foster care. It has a two-part goal. And talking to people that are involved in it, and I see that some of you are, it has a two-part goal. It's one, to provide programs for kids that are in foster care, and two, they're really working hard to get kids transition to permanent families. And to answer the question that a lot of you are asking, Wendy, thank you. Yes, they cut all of the federal funding going to the National CASA GAL.org program. They cut it all. Now, there's still funding out there from other organizations. And obviously, locally, I live near Springfield, Missouri. We have 300 kids in 3 counties that are served by National CASA in my area. Just to let you know how significant the problem is, how serious the problem is, how widespread the problem is in rural America. We've not only got these 300 kids that are in the program, but we've got 200 kids that are on the waiting list. Okay. So even with this great program and even with the federal funding that's available out there, there's a shortage of resources. Because in a perfect world, the least we could do is tell a kid that suffered from abuse or tell a kid whose parents are going through a horrible divorce or tell a kid who's experienced trauma through injury or by seeing a horrible accident, the least we could do is dedicate enough resources to cover all the kids in that experience, going through that experience. Thank you, Leanna. I think that sums it up perfectly. Our job is to advocate for the best interest of the child. I will tell you, and again, I don't want to share too much because I have family that watches this, etc. But I can tell you that as a father, when I went through my divorce with 4 young children, um, because I lived in the state of Texas, anytime a father was going to get custody almost, they would appoint an ad litem attorney. And I can tell you that the ad litem attorney that was appointed to our family when I went through that process before I became a single dad of 4 kids was one of the most incredible individuals I've ever met in my life. He was amazing. He could see through the bullshit. And when I say that, I mean, he did that intentionally because he advocated for my kids. He had their best interest in mind. When my emotions would start to get the best of me, he would step in and say, Will, let me explain to you why you need to change your approach here. And I would. He's one of the people, along with an elderly woman in my church, who, right when I started to go through my divorce, came up to me and said, Will, no matter what happens, don't ever say anything bad about your kid's mom. And my kids will tell you to this day, the oldest one is 35 and the youngest one is in his late 20s, that I kept that commitment. And I'm not saying that because I want you to put me on Mount Rushmore, okay? Because trust me, if you would have heard the conversations I would have had with my friends, you'd know I'm not a perfect person. But I never had those conversations with my kids. I let my kids build their own attitudes. I let them build their own decisions. I let them build their own point of view. And my kids still to this day tell me, Dad, thank you. Thank you. That's what we needed when we were going through that. I say that, I only bring it up not because I want you to think better of me, but because I want you to understand that the advice I got to do that, that advice that I listened to, was the advice that I got from an ad litem attorney who gave me that advice, and I listened and I followed, along with like an 83-year-old lady in my church who drew me aside and said, Will, when my parents got divorced a long, long time ago, they just threw each other under the bus all the time, and I hated it. But these ad litem attorneys, they play a special role. These ad litem appointees, they play a special role in these kids' lives when they're going through some of the most difficult things they'll go through in their entire childhood. And here's what the Department of Justice said. And I think you need to listen closely to the wording here. They said we're in the letter that they sent out to National CASA, they said we're cutting these funds because you're not advocating for American children. Now, I want you guys to keep me honest. I want you to keep me honest. Here's how I read that. I read that to mean that they're tying in DEI to helping children And what they really meant was, tell me if I'm wrong, but what they really meant was you're helping all children. You're helping kids that are here who are citizens or the children of American citizens. And you're also helping kids who may have parents who are undocumented immigrants, or you may be helping undocumented children, or you may be helping, in some cases, brown kids, children of color. That's how I read it. Keep me honest. If you think I'm wrong, put it in the comments. I'm happy to read your point of view, but that's how I read it. How else could you apply a DEI standard to helping kids? Guys, when I was laying out there on the ground on that farm bleeding to death, I didn't care who showed up to help me. I didn't care. I just wanted somebody to help me. When I screamed out to the heavens, "Don't let me die," Jesus could have been a black man in his 80s, a black woman in her teens, a Filipino lady. I don't care. I don't care. When I screamed out, "Don't let me die," I didn't care who was coming to help me. And the person that did step up and help me, for whatever reason, being involved in a serious farm accident and not having an artery damaged or a major vein damage and not bleeding out there on the ground, you think I cared who that was? Do you think whoever helped me, the paramedics that showed up, the good Lord in heaven, do you think they cared about my color or whether I was a citizen of the United States or a documented worker? No, they showed up. They helped me. They cared about me as a kid. And this organization, National CASA, GAL.org, and all the people that volunteer with them, they do the same thing. They do the same thing. And guys, I've learned so much from those of you that have messaged me who are experts in mental health care and experts in health. Like, I know sometimes people listen to my story and they think, man, Will went through a lot as a kid. But I got to tell you, a lot of kids go through this stuff. My story is not unique anywhere, urban, rural, suburban. It's not unique anywhere. A lot of kids go through this stuff. They experience physical or sexual abuse or trafficking. They experience horrible accidents, or they witness horrible accidents, or they go through the breakup of relationships that have a horrible negative effect on them. And this was a salt of the earth organization. Don't let me use it in the past tense because they're still there and they need our help. They're still there. This is a salt of the earth organization, mostly made up of incredibly good people that are fighting for kids. And our kids need our support. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that in this day and age, guys, but our kids need our support. They need our help. They need our help. So I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things, okay? The organization, their website is National CASA, CASA, GAL.org. If you just Google National CASA, CASA, it'll pull up their website and you can learn more about them. You can make a donation. I went yesterday and I made a donation because they're trying to fill a gap. Just to give you guys an example, they've got a $90,000 gap just in my community alone. And they've only got two choices. They can either raise this money from private resources. It sure is, Ro. It sure is. They can either raise this money from private resources or the Department of Justice can reverse itself, this DEI ruling, and they can get this money back again. So here at the Back 40, we're going to take on trying to make both of those things happen. Thank you, Steph, for putting that in the comments. First of all, if you can, make a small dollar donation and share with people what's happened here. I'm going to encourage you to step outside the box a little bit. You guys have already started doing these personal videos where you talk about the things that happen to you and how these cuts that are happening are going to impact you or impact your family. I would really encourage you, if you're not sure how to do that, go out there and look at the people that I'm following on TikTok and look up Sleepy Mama and look up Susie and look up Grains and Pains and just look at the videos that they're making talking about the things that are going on in their families and how these cuts are going to impact them. And start making some videos. If you take advantage of National CASA, I'm just going to call it CASA from now on. If you take advantage of CASA or you've been in the program or you know people who are, make your own personal videos calling that out. And if you feel comfortable, if you've been a victim of physical abuse like I was, or of sexual abuse, and you had somebody that either did step in and help you through that process, or maybe you were like me and you didn't have anybody to help, and you feel comfortable doing it, make a video about that and walk people through what it would have meant for you to have somebody there for you in your time of need as a child. And ask people to do two things. The same thing I'm asking you to do. Ask them to make a small dollar contribution to help fill in the funding gap from the Department of Justice cutting their funding. And then the second thing I'm going to ask you to do, guys, get on the phones again. Get on the phones again. And I want you to handle this in a very specific way, okay? When you get on the phones and you call in to your congresspeople and to your senators, I want you to handle this in a very specific way. I want you to ask them, I want you to say, in our country, at a minimum, explain to them what CASA is and explain to them that the Department of Justice has cut off their national funding. Let them know exactly what they do, that they step up to help kids in their time of need. And don't pull any punches. And if you've experienced the trauma I've talked about, whether or not CASA stepped in to help you, tell them about that if you feel comfortable doing it. And just put it out there in front of them that in a country like ours, at a bare minimum, we ought to be able to set partisanship aside to help our children. But unfortunately, right now, as we've talked about in the last several lives, the exact opposite is happening. I told you I've got a grandchild that's in an individual education plan. Fortunately, it's paid for by the local school district. But in a lot of states, if they do what they're planning on doing, those IEPs are going to go away. Now, tonight, we're talking about CASA and kids who are some of the most traumatized individuals in the United States and an incredible program that's out there to help them. Other days, we've talked about rural health care for kids. The fact that 55% of the kids around the country in rural America are covered with insurance paid for by Medicaid. And what would it mean if that were to go away? Lay it out there in front of them like that. And then, like I always tell you to do, don't settle for form letters. Don't settle for canned responses. When I called about this, I used this specific term. I said, these are our kids. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What is my congressman going to do? What is my senator going to do? How can I find out what actions my congressman and senator are taking to reverse this decision? And I keep talking to you guys about what angry veteran Matt is doing. He's been going every day to his congressional office. If you have to call every day, that's the commitment that I've made. I'm calling every day this week. And the way I'm following it up with the additional calls is I'm saying, hey, it's Will again. We talked the last 2 days. I'm just calling back to find out whether or not this message was delivered to Congressman Alford, Senator Hawley, Senator Schmidt, and what are they doing about it? Have they responded back to you? Have they told you what they're going to do to take care of this problem, to reverse this funding decision? That's what I need you to do, those two things. Make a small dollar donation. Call. I guess I lied. It's 3 things. And then if you can, get out there and start making videos about how this might have impacted you or why you want to see it succeed. And if you will, when you make your video and you put it out there, just tag me in it. Just tag at Westmoreland_pops. And if you'll do that, I'll go in and I'll like your video and I'll share it out there. While we're on the topic, the other thing I'd really like to ask you guys to do is when you're doing something directly related to rural America and what we're trying to accomplish here at the Back 40, if you would, make sure you tag me in those videos. Because right now I'm sharing what I see, and we all know what the FYP does, right? If you tag me in those videos, it'll put it under tags, and I can see all of them, and I can go out there and I can share those and get the word out. The only time I won't share a video is if you cross a line in there. No name calling if you can, because the people we need to listen to us, they will tune us out. Personal stories are the best. Talking about what's going to happen to these kids if they don't get the help they need is the best. Tag me in there. And then if you would, use the hashtag TheBack40. Use the hashtag TheBack40. And what I'll do is I'll get out there and I'll share your videos across TikTok and across YouTube. And right now, we're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and Substack. So if you'll do that, I'll share across all of our social media platforms because we need to get this story out. Again, if you want to learn more about them, it's National CASA, CASA, GAL.org. And I really appreciate it, guys. While we're on the topic, let me talk to you about what's happening at the Back 40 and how you can join us. First of all, I want to say one thing. We've had some growing pains, guys, and none of you have complained about it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I mean, when we started this, I had no idea that it was going to grow as fast as it has. We've got over 400,000 followers across all social media. We've got, I think we counted the other day, we have 137 different people that have reached out to us to ask us to go speak. These are all good problems to have. Thanks for joining the team, guys, and thank you for the gifts. But we've obviously had some growing pains because of this. We had to set up our website. We had to set up our accounts. We had to set up relationships with outside organizations so that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. And you guys have just grown right along with us, and you've never complained. I want to ask you to do one thing. If you emailed us when we first started up, if you emailed us at theback40family@gmail.com to get us your information, we're having an issue with the manuals that we put in to MailChimp not working correctly. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If you've been with us since the beginning, going all the way back to November, and if you don't get an update newsletter this week, okay, when we send it out, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to go to our new website, the Back 40 Official, all spelled out, no numbers, the Back 40 Official, all spelled out, and sign up again. Now, if you've already done it on the new website, you're good, okay? You're good. That went directly into the newsletter system, and you're good. But I know there are some people that we entered in manually in the beginning that didn't get the newsletter the last time around. So do me a favor, if you would, go to the website, the Back 40 Official, all spelled out, and sign up again. While you're there, You see the work that we're doing all over the US. You see it, right? I'm going to walk you through right now some of the things that we're doing out there because I think it's important to keep you guys updated. Annie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for making the donation. This week, on Thursday, I'm going to be in California, Missouri, speaking to an organization up there at 6 o'clock in the evening. And this is a nonpartisan organization. There are going to be about 300 people there. It's open to the public, but we're going to be talking about all these same issues that we just talked about tonight and all the things that we normally talk about. Okay. And yours truly is going to try to tell these personal stories without blubbering like a baby. And anybody that wants to come to that, if you're in central Missouri, it'll be this Thursday. And it's at California, Missouri. You can go to our website. We've got a calendar at the very bottom of the page, and it will tell you where these events are and how you can participate. The week after that, next week, we're going to be at another event up in northeastern Missouri. And I'm really excited about that one because I'm going to be speaking. Jess Piper is going to be speaking. And then we've got a candidate, Josh Smead, who's running for that congressional district up there, who's going to be speaking as well. So if you want to attend and you want to be a part of that, do the same thing. Go to our website, go down to the bottom, and we've got a calendar there, and you can see exactly what you need to do to attend. We have got events coming up in Texas. We're going to be down in Burnett County, Texas, in June. And we're going to be putting together here pretty quickly a couple of other events in East Texas and West Texas so that we can see all of our Texas friends, because you guys know I used to live there and my two oldest children were born there. We've got events coming up in North Carolina. We're planning events, guys, all over the country to get the message about why these policies are bad for rural America and what we need to do to change minds. So if you want to help us in that endeavor, go to the website, the Back 40 Official, and just sign up. And while you're there, that is funny, Navy. Thank you for sharing that with me. While you're there, if you want to make a donation, I can promise you, if I could turn my camera around right now, I would show you my Ford F-150 that's 5 years old out in the driveway with almost 200,000 miles on it, so that you would know that your donations are not going for a new Ford F-250 fresh off of the dealership lot. These things are, your donations are going to support what we're doing here at the Back 40, which up till, just a couple of months ago, I've been funding completely out of my pocket. So if you want to make a donation, you can. But more importantly, sign up. When you sign up, there's going to be a list of boxes that you can check off to let us know what your skills and strengths are so that you can get involved. The other thing I wanted to tell you about that is thank you for being so patient about us reaching out to you to ask how you can help. Right now, we've been so focused on the basics, setting up the website, setting up merchandise, working with these partner organizations to get out there and speak. As we grow, as we continue to grow, we're going to be biting off bigger and bigger projects to get out there into rural America to change minds. And when that happens, we're going to be going in there and doing data searches to find out who's an expert in this area. How can we plug them in? How can we reach out to them? So I just want to say thank you for all of your help. Thank you for all the attention. Now, I want to challenge you to do something else for me if you can as well. It's no secret right now that social media content creators on the left are really being throttled right now on TikTok and some other social media platforms. One of the biggest things, guys, that you can help us do is encourage people to follow us, because I love every one of you, and I love it when I put a video out there and 100,000, 150,000 people go view it. But we really want to get more people to watch the content that we're putting out so that we can change minds. I love to tell you guys stories like this one because, we've had so many, and I'm going to tell this story Thursday when I go. Just the end of last week on Friday, I mentioned it on Saturday. I had a voter that voted for Donald Trump for president reach out from Florida, farming family, and they want to get involved on the back 40. They know they made a mistake. It's been bad for them, and they want to get involved in the back 40. They actually want to get out there on media and tell their story to the media as well, to let them know, yeah, we voted for the wrong guy. It's not only been bad for us, but it's been bad for a lot of people in rural America. These are the minds that we're changing. And remember, every mind we change is a lost vote on the other side and a gained vote on our side. Because there are some people out there arguing right now that we should go around rural America, tell everybody they're stupid and that they vote against their best interest, and that somehow magically by just registering voters and by just getting magical lazy Democrats in rural America that don't vote to vote, that we can win elections. And I'm here to tell you guys, for those of you that don't know, my primary job, I'm a political consultant as well as being a farmer. And I can tell you that math doesn't add up. Nobody saying that right now has any experience at all in winning elections in rural America. Just running for office doesn't make you an expert. Just talking about it doesn't make you an expert. If you haven't been out there rolling up your sleeves, winning elections in rural America, then you're not an expert. And I don't mean that in a hateful way. I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm just telling you, be careful who you listen to, because there is no scenario in rural America where we change minds and we win elections that doesn't involve the changing minds part. The changing minds part. Absolutely, Nana. Absolutely, Navy. We've got to change minds. And that's what we're striving to do here at the Back 40. Number one, our primary advocacy goal is to advocate for all of you in rural America, to try to save our hospitals and healthcare, to try to save our schools, to try to save our businesses, to try to keep young people in rural America, to try to get good ag policy that defends our small family farms and ranches, rather than seeing those being bought up by Acre Trader, funded and brought to you by JD Vance, by the way. So if you can, just share what we do. Share the website. Tell even your friends that voted for Donald Trump or your non-political friends, just go take a look. Just go take a look at what we're doing here. And I want you to say we, guys. I don't position the Back 40 as Will Westmoreland, okay? The Back 40 is you. It's me. It's us. You guys probably get tired of hearing it, but I'm going to tell you this until I'm blue in the face and until you don't want to hear it anymore. If you guys weren't here following me, if you weren't watching my videos, if you weren't sending me feedback about how I can be better at what I'm doing, if you weren't getting involved, I would just be a guy what? What do I always tell you? If you're trying to be a leader and you don't have anybody following you, what are you? Put it in the comments, because I know some of you know. Where are you, Gladys? Answer the question for everybody. That's right, Steph. You're just a guy taking a walk. You're just a gal taking a walk. That's it. You are the Back 40. You are the only reason when we lost that election, I didn't just say, well, I did my part, let's shut it all down. You are the reason for that. You are a part of this. You are the Back 40. People listen to us because they know you are there with me. So if you're frustrated, if you feel like your voice isn't being heard, if you don't know where to turn next, if you're looking for some direction, but more importantly, you want to give input as to how we can fight this fight more effectively across the country for better rural policies that save hospitals and healthcare, schools, small family farms and ranches, and the economy, join us here. Ask other people to join us. And guess what? We take everybody. Hey, if you're willing to make the admission that you were lied to and you know that it's not working for you anymore and you want to come help us fight, come on. There's plenty of room on the back of the pickup truck. We're ready for you. Hell, we'll even slow down, drop the gate, and give you a hand to get in. Come join us. Be a part of it. Share, share, share. I want to tell you guys a little secret about where I want to see this go if we're able to pull it off. And I know we can if we have you as a part of it. I would love to organize over time the back 40 in every state in this country. Because when I look out there, I see different organizations doing different things, and we're going to work with them. We're going to work with them. We're going to cooperate with them. We're going to join arms with them so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I would love to see the back 40 organize in every single state. That's what the billionaires on the Republican side of the aisle do. That's what the people trying to protect big money do. That's what the people trying to destroy healthcare do. That's what the people trying to destroy schools do. That's what the people who don't give a shit about our small family farms and ranches being sold out from underneath us to Wall Street do. We've got some big goals here. And if you will continue to have the patience to give us constructive feedback and to bear with us as we grow, I know we can get it done. Just this week, Zeppo and I were talking to an organization in East Tennessee. I got to tell you, I hung up from that call, guys. I was so damn excited. I couldn't think about anything else for a couple of hours when it was over. In 1852, my third great grandfather loaded up the wagon with his wife and 5 kids and left Cleveland, Tennessee, not far from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and came all the way across the country out here to the big sky country where I live. He was going to go get rich in California. Well, God had other plans, and his mules broke down right here in Southwest Missouri. But he had good credit, he had a good name, he had a strong back, and he had 5 strapping kids. And that was enough to lay down roots here. And in one way, shape, or form, since 1852, my family's been here in Southwest Missouri, farming, ranching, growing businesses, raising their families, and trying to do the right thing. And all of you have similar stories to tell. Or maybe you're new. Maybe you're a first generation American. Maybe you're a second generation American. Maybe you want to become a citizen of this country. There's room for all of us here. There's room for all of us here. And we're going to advocate for everybody, not some, not the people that donate, not the people that just show up for our lives. We're going to advocate for all of rural America here. And you know what I love most about the back 40? All you city slickers in here. Because it's not just rural folks on here fighting to help save rural America, because even you city slickers, and that's a term of endearment for me. Even you city slickers know that if we have a strong rural America and we solve for the problems that we've got in rural America, we're solving those same problems for everybody in this country, regardless of where you live. I love the fact that when we come on here, I can see somebody like JPS on here that plants row crops all day long, harvests row crops, runs that farm. And then right below them making a comment is a single mom from Philadelphia. All of them with the same exact focus on doing the right thing, on saving education, on saving healthcare, on saving our food supply system. I love it. Detroit, welcome. Nothing makes me happier, Nicole, than to know you learned what a row crop is on the back 40. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I know we're going to accomplish it. I know we're going to get the job done. More importantly, I know one simple thing. We're not going to be able to do it without you. We're not going to be able to do it without you. Let's get into why we need to do it. We've already talked about CASA. That's right, Dying Breed. We are. Love right back at you. Our boy Doughboy's out there in New Jersey. He's out there in New Jersey. He's our Discord guy. He's our Discord guy. When you go onto the website, you can request to join the Discord. It's right there. We'll get you on there. I wanted to tell you guys tonight about another report. I did a video on this as well, but I don't trust the FYP to get this stuff out there. So I'm going to talk to you about it directly tonight because this significantly impacts rural America. Man, I gotta quit printing these articles off. This is too many trees right here. So on April 30th, about a week ago, on April 30th, the Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, whose claim to fame about understanding agriculture is that she grew up on a farm. Now, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I did too. But if you're going to be the Secretary of Agriculture, you need to have more qualifications than just growing up on a farm. There are a lot of people that grew up on a farm, don't live there anymore, and don't know a damn thing about agriculture. Thank you, River. I really appreciate that. And when I say it, I mean it. So, good old Brooke Rollins. You guys remember when I was bitching about a month and a half ago that she had gone up to Iowa? Remember when we were late on, we had the tariffs coming out, and we knew that that was going to mean billions of dollars in losses to farmers? That's right, Wendy. We knew it was going to mean billions of dollars in losses to farmers when the tariffs happened. We had reciprocal tariffs being put in place. Remember what we said about that it could cost us as much as 80% of our international corn exports and somewhere around 37, 38 billion metric tons of soybean sales. We've talked about our foundering markets out there. Remember when this happened the first time during the first Trump administration? We lost all of these row crop markets out there. And what happened? Brazil and Argentina and these other countries went from selling China 13% of their row crops to selling them 43%. And it's only getting worse right now. And a lot of people fear, and I'm one of them, that those markets are never going to come back again. And I got upset. Imagine that. I got upset because Brooke Rollins went into Iowa and said, don't worry. Don't worry. It's okay, farmers and ranchers. It's okay, rural America, because even though only 12% of rural people are farmers and ranchers, in a lot of communities out there in rural America, 40 to 50% of the economy is driven by agriculture. CYB, it is so good to see you. I was thinking about you today. It is really good to see you. We're going to do a live here on TikTok one day on a different day where we just bring people up like we have in the past. And CYB, you better make sure you come up. But I got mad because she said, don't worry, everybody. We are going to put $500 million into additional ethanol creation in this country. Now, did you hear what I said there? We're going to lose up to 80% of our corn crop exports, which is billions of dollars. We could lose up to 37 billion metric tons of soybean sales, which is billions of dollars. And then what did we talk about at the beginning of last week, guys? Do you remember? What happened to beef? The Chinese said, we're no longer going to buy $1.6 billion of American beef. And the Australians said, no worries, mate. No worries. We'll sell it to you. And we lost that. And here comes Brooke Rollins. I like to call her Green Acres Barbie. And she says, don't worry about all that, guys, because we're going to put an extra $500 million into ethanol production. As if that could make up for the losses that we're experiencing in agriculture as a direct result of these shitty policies. I'm sorry, crappy policies. I know some of you have kids in the car. Well, on April 30th, she came out and she made this announcement. You know what? Let me just read this to you. I normally don't do this, guys, but let me just read this to you, okay? God. Let me just read this to you. You're going to love it. Get ready. Get something to bite down on. Get something to bite down on. Secretary Brooke Rollins announced today that there will be multiple cuts across the Department of Agriculture as a direct result of implementing Donald Trump's effort to slash the federal workforce and cut spending for programs related to DEI. Programs such as local food purchasing and climate smart funding have been frozen or cut within the first 100 days of the Trump administration. In addition to that, the USDA typically offers loans to farmers who have trouble accessing credit through traditional lending institutions because of the unique challenges that face farming in this country. The FSA services about 8 to 10% of farms with loans, according to the USDA data. $4.7 billion in rural farming funding comes from the FSA. In addition to the funding mechanisms being cut, as a result of the DEI programs being cut, up to a third of USDA workers across the country that work in the FSA and USDA offices have also been cut as well. Now, let me explain to you what they're talking about when they say DEI cuts. When Joe Biden put together this funding for farming, okay, when Joe Biden put together this funding for farming, it was designed to do a couple of different things, okay? Now, you can be an idiot, all right? You can be an idiot. No, I don't want to go down that path. I'm not going to go there because I criticize other people for doing that, and I'm not going to do it. Let me start over. There are a lot of farmers and people that live in rural America that don't believe climate change is real. Okay? They don't believe climate change is real. However, if you live here in Southwest Missouri, you do know that for the last several years, we've had a really wet spring, followed by a very bad drought in the summer, followed by a really wet fall, and it has significantly impacted what crops we put in the ground, the productivity that we get out of those crops, how much we have to feed hay in the summertime to our livestock when normally they would be grazing grass. Even the people in rural America that don't believe in quote unquote climate change, they understand that something's happening. They understand that something's happening. To Wendy's point, the weather is changing. And we have programs specifically designed to counter those losses in productivity. Let me tell you about a few of them. This is for my city slicker friends I was talking about a minute ago. One of the big ones out there is for rotational grazing. Let me explain to you guys what that is. If you've watched the movies like McClintock or any of these other movies, McClintock or, any of the other big cowboy movies or the shows like Yellowstone, what you'll typically see is you'll just see a bunch of cattle out in a 500-acre field, 1,000-acre field, and they're just eating grass. That is very, very inefficient, okay? It's inefficient because they typically just roam into the areas of forage on those ranches and farms, and they eat the best, greenest, youngest grasses that are coming up. And what happens is the other grasses grow up, they seed out, they become, lower in protein. They're just, all you cattle people know what I'm talking about. So about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the USDA started supplying funding to do rotational grazing. And what rotational grazing is you'd go into that same 300-acre field or that same 500-acre field, and you would put up some electrical fencing that divides that up into paddocks. And maybe they're 10 acres, maybe they're 20 acres, maybe they're 30 acres, maybe they're 40 acres. And you put a water source in there. And what you do is you graze your cattle, not until they eat the grass down to that tall, but maybe they eat it down to that tall. And then you rotate them to the next paddock. And as you're rotating them around to these different paddocks to eat grass, the original paddock that you had them in, that grass, that forage is growing again. Make sense? This is called rotational grazing. It is expensive to implement rotational grazing. It's very expensive. And you have to do a lot of other things because it's getting hotter, it's getting warmer. So here in Missouri and in a lot of places in the South, when you implement rotational grazing, you've got to do the following things. Number one, you've got to buy all the fencing material to take these large pieces of land. There you go, be the good. You got to take these large pieces of land and you've got to buy the fencing material to divide them up into smaller paddocks. That's number one. Number two, the same thing happens to cattle. If you put them in an environment where they have no water, they don't live very long, just like we don't. So you've got to have water in those paddocks so that when cattle eat, they can drink and they can process that forage the way they're supposed to. It's expensive. Sometimes you've got to dig a separate well, depending on where you live in the United States, to make that happen. And sometimes, if you've got a great well, you've got to run piping out to these different paddocks to get water in there. That's number two. Third thing you have to do in a lot of cases is, in this country, back in the day, we planted this type of grass called fescue almost everywhere. If I remember correctly, and some of you farmers keep me honest, but I think it was brought over from Africa, but we planted fescue everywhere because it was a good, cool weather grass. We had Bermuda in the south. We had fescue in the north. Well, it's getting warmer here where I live now. So you've got people that are coming in and they're planting what we call warm weather grasses. They're planting warm, W-A-R-M, warm weather grasses so that they do better in these hot summers that we've got. Yes, Jen, it is part of it. Thank you for asking that question because I'm going to talk about our show next Thursday and I want you guys to be here. So the bottom line is it's very, very expensive to implement these policies. But here's what we know about implementing these policies. You can put more cattle and have more productivity on the same amount of grass if you rotationally graze. If you guys want to hear a cool fact, you know where we learned this? We learned this from going to the Serengeti and looking at these giant herds of animal that moved across the Serengeti. They would graze and they would move on to new areas. And they came through, their hooves tore up the soil, their manure fertilized the soil, and then they moved on. And by the time they cycled back through, the grass, the forage had time to recover. And there was another big stand of beautiful, luscious green grass with lots of protein in it. This is the same thing we're trying to emulate through rotational grazing, but it costs a lot of money. And the federal government said, pardon me, guys, the pollen was supposed to drop, and that's a lie. I don't know what weatherman spread that nonsense, but it's not true. The federal government said this is a good thing in rural America, so we're going to offer funding for this. We're not going to pay for all of it. My parents used this on their 300 cow calf operation that they had. And in some cases, it reimbursed, 60% of the funds back. Remember our friend Skyler, who was all for Donald Trump being impeached until he got his check. The person that called me from Florida the other day, same boat. They were doing rotational grazing, warm weather grasses, this kind of thing. But the farmer takes that money out of their own pocket. They pay for this stuff, and then the federal government, through a contract that they have, they pay them back. And what's happening is they're calling these programs DEI programs or climate hoax programs because they're designed to mitigate the impacts of the changing weather that we're experiencing right now. So these programs are going away. And literally, they're leaving farmers and ranchers holding the bag. This poor farmer that called me from Florida, guys, those of you that farm know, even if you've got a small business, I don't care if you have a laundromat or you're making cheeses out there like Eat Like an Arab in New Jersey. Still waiting for mine, Benita. Think about what a $190,000 hit would mean for your budget. Think about what that would do, regardless of what kind of small business you own. That's what they're dealing with. They spent a couple of $100,000, several $100,000 out of pocket to get their ranch up to speed. And then the federal government is just coming back and saying, we're not paying you that last $190,000. Now, all of a sudden, you've gone from being excited about improving your farm and ranch to wondering how you're going to keep it. Because Green Acres Barbie doesn't have the wherewithal to stand up to the president and tell him these policies are bad. We've made these commitments. We need to stand up and we need to meet these commitments. This is what's happening out there, and it's happening across the board. And you know what the really shitty part of all this is, guys? When I think about what they did, when they sent those checks out to people like Skyler that were MAGA raising hell on social media, just think for a minute how disingenuous that is. Thank you guys so much for the gifts. Think about how disingenuous that is. Think about the work that went into that. To go out across all social media platforms and to find your people that voted for you who are turning their backs on you because of what you did to them, and you pay them, but you don't pay everybody else. That really put a burr under my saddle. Almost as bad as the one that I got when I saw Skyler out there after he got his check, making the same kinds of videos that he made when he was full-blown MAGA. I mean, to me, that's nothing more than political bribery. My people are going to get what they were promised. Your people aren't. That's right, Bon. It is buying silence. You got it. I hope you're able to do it, Jay. If you want to read a really good article on this, there was a really good article that I printed off that I wanted to share with you guys. And it was from, believe it or not, it was from the Waterford News. But if you just Google delay on acres payments undermining rural communities, it's this article right here. Let me show it to you. Okay. There's a really good article there that talks about the fact, it's just from a few days ago. because they're lying out there, guys. They're lying to people, and they're trying to tell people that all this funding has been sent out, and it hasn't. It hasn't. Right now, the latest figures show that we still have 10,000 farmers out there still waiting on these payments, like the ones that Skylar got because he was screaming the loudest as a MAGA farmer. More than 2,700 haven't even received, listen to this, more than 2,700, they haven't even received their balancing payments from 2023 because unfortunately, those payments for 2023 due to go out in 2024. Trump takes office, he puts a freeze on them, and they don't go out. So you've got 10,000 farmers still waiting on payments, and you've got 2,700 that haven't even received their balancing payments from 2023. And what that's leading to is all of us have been in a situation at some point in our life where we had a reduction in the amount of income coming in. Maybe we lost our job. Maybe our company had problems. Maybe we had another baby. Whatever it might be, the amount of income coming in doesn't match the amount of output going out. It's called being broke, for those of you that don't know. And I've been broke before. But the people that want their money, and this is especially true in farming, they don't stop asking for it. They don't stop asking for it, guys. They continue to want that money. You've got to pay for fertilizer. You've got to pay for seed. You've got to pay for antifungals. You've got to pay for pesticides. You've got to pay for the medicine that you need for your cattle. You've got to pay in many cases for those other feed inputs like hay and corn or silage. If you don't buy those things, if you don't find a way to pay for those things, your small farmer ranch goes away. That's right, Tucker. Great point. You can tell I'm not a row crop farmer. You got to pay for storage. I won't forget that, Tucker. Thank you, man. You've got to pay for all of these inputs. You don't have a choice, guys, because you can float these things on the books for so long, but eventually the bank puts its hand out and it says, we want our money back. Jen, it could come to that. It could come to crowdfunding to save farmers. Right now, we're in this stage where we need to raise so much hell that they make these payments. Yes, he is, Lindsay. He raised money for these Wall Street firms that are buying family farms and ranches when they go out of business. My point being, guys, that this problem has not been solved. And the problem is, if you guys remember when I did that video to Skylar that went viral, I had everybody and their brother from the national news media calling me, asking me to do an interview with them. And I did, because it was an important message that needed to get out there. I talked to the New York Times. I talked to the Wall Street Journal. I talked to CNN. I even talked to reporters from England and from Germany. I mean, I'm sure if you go out there and Google it, there's an article in Germany from Wilhelm Westmoreland telling everybody what's happening in the United States. But the problem is those news media outlets have moved on. They've moved on. But the problem is still here. And you already know where I'm going to go with this. We can't rely on the news media to fight this battle for us folks in rural America. We've got to fight it. No problem, Keith. Welcome. We've got to fight it. We've got to continue to bring these issues in front of the American people. Letters to the editor, calls to our elected officials, right here on the back 40. And that's why I keep pushing over and over again. If you're a row crop farmer and you haven't gotten your payments, make a video about it. At me. Westmoreland_pops. Hashtag the back 40. We'll share it. We'll help get your story out. If you're a small business in rural America and you're suffering because they've labeled the program that you were promised to grow your business DEI, do a video about it. At me. Hashtag the back 40. We'll get your video out. Welcome, East Tennessee. We were just talking about y'all not long ago in a good way. I want to show you another one. And I'm sorry this is backwards on TikTok, guys. Slim margins, climate disasters, and Trump's funding freeze. Life or death for many U.S. farms. It's come down to that, guys. I got to be careful how I talk about this because I don't want the lives to be taken down. But it goes beyond the financial. And many of you that deal with mental health or you're on farms and ranches, you know where I'm going to go with this. You know where I'm going to go with this. Welcome, Joplin, Missouri. I've shared this story with you guys before. And again, I don't want to overshare, but I had a really large business once. I grew it into a $3 million business. And we were doing business with a small company in New York. And all of a sudden it got gobbled up by a multi-billion-dollar defense contractor. And that was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. Because their priorities were not helping us grow, paying us on time, being good partners. And I had to close it down. And brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you when you do that, and some of you know because you've done it as well, when you've got to make that decision, you go to some pretty dark places. I want you to know I share this stuff with you guys. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm fine. As long as I have my family, I will be fine. But those of you that have had to close down businesses or shut down family farms, you know what I'm talking about. You go to some dark places. How are you going to make ends meet? What happens when you have to sacrifice the planning that you've done for your family? I experienced that. I'll tell you what saved me, guys, is that I was willing to, I had multiple businesses. I had a strong family support network, most importantly, and I was able to slog my way through it. But there are a lot of rural people and a lot of farmers and ranchers out there. Farming and ranching is the only thing they do. Thank you, Nana, because I didn't want to say it out loud. Farming and ranching is what they do. And I'm just going to tell you guys, sadly, during the last Trump administration, farmer and rancher unalivings, and I'm using TikTok friendly language because we're on both platforms tonight, farmer unalivings increased every year. Bankruptcies increased, unalivings increased, because people got to the end of their rope. They saw their generational farms, their farms that they had put their entire blood, sweat, toil, and tears into, what they had built for their families, what they had built for the people they loved. They saw them going away. There was no pathway to save it. There was no pathway to victory. And my biggest fear, my friends, on the back 40 is that that's where we're headed again right now. That's where we're headed again right now. We've taken $1.6 billion in beef sales out of the market. We've taken billions of dollars in row crop sales out of the market. We've got farmers out there, row crop farmers out there. You farmers keep me honest, but you know what I'm about to say. We've got row crop farmers out there that are planting corn Listen to what I'm about to say, okay? Imagine if you were doing this in your job. They're planting corn not because they think they can sell it at a high price, but because they think that's what they're going to get the most crop insurance for when everything goes to shit during harvest season. Those of you that row crop in here, you keep me honest. You tell everybody in here if I'm right or wrong. We're not poor, we're rich because we farm the land and we love our families. But if you're serious that you've never met a poor farmer, you don't get out enough. It's bad, guys, and it's going to get worse. It's happened multiple times before. It happened in the late 1800s and early 1900s when we tried tariffs and it tanked family farms. And every damn farmer in the Midwest United States was a liberal populist. Went out to the streets to raise hell. We had organizations out there where women got to vote and people of color got to vote in the late 1800s, right after the Civil War, because farmers and ranchers combined together to create organizations where they said, you're not going to ignore us. They became the largest political movement as a percentage of the population in the history of the United States of America. Things are going to get bad. And that's why we're doing what we are here at the Back 40. We can't rely on the news media to save us. We can't rely on our politicians to save us without being pushed. And that's what we've got to do. We're talking about real money here, guys. One farmer in this article said they've cut $100,000 out of my budget by denying me these funds. Money I paid that I was supposed to get back. I have to rethink my entire business plan. I feel shell-shocked. $19.5 billion to be paid out over several years. And now all of a sudden, we've got a funding freeze in place that's putting all of that at risk. Not to mention tens of thousands of USDA employees that are right out there working side by side with the farmer. Those USDA reps and FSA reps, you farmers know what I'm talking about. They don't just tell you about programs that are available. They take that feedback to the higher ups and they say, here's what we need. A lot of them are, Lori. A lot of them are joining the protests. And not all of them did, T-Dog. Don't paint with a broad brush. I always say, save the broad brush for the barn. Save the broad brush for painting the barn. 30% of farmers and ranchers did not vote for Donald Trump. And here's the other thing I want to say, guys, because you know I get fired up about this. I've told you my story. My dad died when I was 5 years old, and for the first 6 years of my life, I lived in government housing on food stamps, taking advantage of every single social safety net program out there. And I'm telling you who's going to get hurt the worst. The farmers are going to get hurt bad, but it's going to be non-political people that get hurt the worst. It's going to be little poor kids. It's going to be elderly people. It's going to be single moms with kids in the home. It's going to be 700 million people around the world that go to bed hungry every night. T-Dog, I'm not directing this at you now. I just want to make that clear. 700 million people around the world that go to bed hungry every night. Little kids like Willie Westmoreland that ate enough government cheese that if I ever became a NASCAR driver, the government USDA cheese program would be my primary sponsor. Those are the people that are going to suffer. I think, honestly, guys, and I'm being brutally honest here, and I want those of you that think the same way politically as I do, because it's no secret. I mean, I'm a Democrat. Even though I'm going around this country trying to talk to anybody who will listen, I don't hide the fact that I'm a Democrat. But I want my fellow Democrats to listen to this as well. I think one of the side effects of Donald Trump is that we all, across the political spectrum, we all get so caught up in our anger about what's happening. It's not that we turn our backs on the people that will really suffer, it's that we forget about them sometimes. So we think, well, farmers voted for this, so they're getting what they deserve. But we don't think about the fact that not all farmers did. We don't think about the fact that there are farmers like me out here. Not only did I vote for her, I've been working my ass off for the last 30 years to get people like her elected. And so have many of you. But even more importantly than that, guys, if our food supply system in this country goes big corporate and goes vertical, like it has so much with row crops, et cetera, it's going to be little kids, single moms, the elderly, and over 700 million people that go to bed hungry every night that suffer. Lori, you said it so well. Sometimes I have to run around the barn to get back to the outhouse, but you said it really well. No one deserves what's coming. Amen, sister. Thank you for putting it that way. I'm going to write that down. No one deserves what's coming. I was on a live the other day and we were talking about Christian nationalism, and I heard some Christians saying, and I am one, but I heard some Christians saying some of the most awful things I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, I've read the good book front to back, just like many of you have. And you know what? I know what the two greatest commandments are. I know what they are. Love me, and love your neighbor like you love me. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. Forget about, I don't care if you're an atheist, an agnostic, a Christian, or what religious viewpoint you have, but think about what that directive means. It didn't say help out your neighbor. It didn't say when your neighbor is in need, do the minimum that you can to help get them through their challenge. It didn't say when your neighbor's in need, pat them on the back and tell them how much you're there for them and how much you're praying for them. Think about that directive to love your neighbor. Think about that feeling that you have for your family, for your grandkids, your children, your mom, your dad, your spouse. That love that you feel. And think about a directive that we're supposed to love everybody that way. Can you imagine what kind of a world we would live in if people just lived up to that simple ask, regardless of what their spiritual affiliation is or whether they have none at all? James, just to fill you in, inside the Democratic Party, including in the Harris campaign, there is a slogan, I voted for her. Her campaign actually came up with the slogan. Her campaign marketed the slogan. Her campaign is comfortable with the slogan. Women of color all over the country helped get the slogan out there. Just a little piece of advice. But think of what kind of a world we would live in if we were doing all that we could to help the weakest among us, or if we treated all of our neighbors as we wanted ourselves to be treated. Because what's happening right now across the board with everything that's going on is the exact opposite of what we've been asked to do. So we have a lot of struggles in rural America. Sorry, guys. We have a lot of struggles in rural America. But we're going to overcome them. We're going to overcome them. And I'm going to tell you how one last time before we end today. Go to theback40official.com, all spelled out, and sign up. And remember what I said in the beginning, guys. If you signed up manually by sending us an email when we first launched the Back 40, please do me a favor and go to the website now and sign up again. Now, if you originally signed up through the website, you're all good. Everything is fine. Okay? It's all good. You're in there. We're going to send out another newsletter this week. Let us know if you don't get it. We'll announce when we've sent it out. But if you originally signed up by sending us an email at the Back 40 family, go into the website now at the Back 40 official, all spelled out.com, and sign up again so that we can get you in there. While you're in there, if you want to make a donation to get the word out, you can do that. If you want to buy a Back 40 t-shirt or you want to buy a Back 40 mug, you can do that. You can do that to support us. We're going all over the country right now to talk to people about what's happening out there in rural America. And we're combining to work with other organizations. There'll be more of that coming out, but the event I'm doing this Thursday is with another advocacy organization here in Missouri. The one I'm doing down in Texas in June is with another advocacy organization in Texas. And we've got some stuff that we're trying to put together in Illinois, here in Missouri. Down in East Tennessee, had a great call with some folks from East Tennessee this week. We're working hard to get the word out everywhere. And if you can help us, we'd really, really appreciate it. All right, guys, listen. Here are your takeaways from today, because I know some of you have joined toward the end here, okay? Here are your takeaways for today. There is a national organization called CASA, C-A-S-A. Their website is nationalcasagal.org. National, C-A-S-A-G-A-L.org. They had their funding taken away by the Department of Justice this week. Thanks, Phoenix. That's what I said, actually. Regardless of what your religious viewpoint is, we ought to treat others with respect. I agree with you 100%. We're on the same page. But you need to dial up with a live call your elected officials, and you need to let them know that that's not going to stand. Remember, these are advocates for children who have experienced sexual and physical abuse or who have experienced trauma. They've had their funding cut because the Department of Justice said they're not helping American kids. And we all know the code behind that. That means they're helping all children and they only want them to help the white ones. Get out there and fight that fight. Make a small dollar donation to them if you can. Push, push, push. Okay, guys, listen, if we can on Thursday, okay, I just want to put this out there to you because we don't know what the environment is going to be up there yet right now. If they will allow us to do a live from the event this Thursday, we're going to do a live from the event on Thursday so that you can watch the event that we do up there and watch the speech and the presentation that I'm going to do so that you can watch it live. That's our goal if we can pull that off. It just depends on, I'm still waiting to hear back from the people that are putting the event on just to make sure that they're going to allow us to do that. If not, we're going to be recording it and we're going to make some videos out of that. And in addition to that, we're going to be putting that out on YouTube as well. That event, guys, starts at 6:30. That event starts at 6:30 this Thursday. It's in California, Missouri. California, Missouri. If you want to attend, it's open to the general public. You can go out online and you can Google the organization that's putting it on. It's called the Mid-Missouri Coalition. The Mid-Missouri Coalition. You can go out there and you can Google that. More importantly, you can go to our website at theback40official.com, all spelled out. If you go down to the very bottom, there is a calendar down there and you can see all these events. And I would love it. I would love it if you would come up to me afterwards and just shake my hand and tell me, Will, I'm part of the Back 40. Let me know your name. I'd love to meet the folks that are part of the Back 40 while I'm out on the road. That's right, Mark. Your neighbor is all human beings. I love that too. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So if you want to come to that event in California, again, California, Missouri, okay, that's going on Thursday. Also, next week on Tuesday, we've got an event up in the 3rd Congressional District in Missouri that we'd love to have you guys come be a part of. That event is on the calendar as well. I want to say something to you here right at the end, guys. Keep plugging away. Lean on each other. There are a lot of negative things happening right now. I know some of you have lost friends and family members to MAGA. I know you don't speak anymore. I get all kinds of messages just saying, and it's an honor to get these. Can you be my brother stand-in? Can you be my uncle stand-in? Can you be my dad stand-in? Lean on each other. Lean in on the people that care about you. Lean in on the people who will be there for you. Lean in on each other. You can do that here on the Back 40. We're in it to win it, but we're in it with each other. Because like I always say, I started the live out this way. If it wasn't for you, I'd just be a guy taking a walk. Widow, just keep watching the calendar because I think the odds of us not coming close to where you are at some point are slim to none. I would almost guarantee you that at some point over the next 12 months, we'll be close enough to you that you can come see us. But lean on each other. Come in here to get your weekly dose of stick-to-itiveness, to hear from people that care about the same things you care about, where you can get direction in terms of how to fight back. Like Jill says, become a farmhand. It's the Back 40, and you're a farmhand. That's what it's all about. Join the team. Become part of the fight. We want you here. We need you here. We would love to have you here. Don't be discouraged. Take that energy and direct it into pushing back. And I'm going to ask you one last time. Please, please, please consider making your own videos, telling your story about how these cuts are impacting you and your family. What's going to happen to you if Medicaid gets cut? What's going to happen to you if individual education plans get taken away? What's going to happen to you if these horrible agricultural policies result in you not being able to sell your crops or your cattle and the money coming from the federal government doesn't make up the difference? What's going to happen to you? We're going to be out by Hickory, Phoenix. More to come. More to come. That's going to be a late summer deal, but we're going to be out there close to Asheville. Make those videos at me, Westmoreland_Pops, hashtag the Back 40, and we'll help you share your message. All right, guys. Keep fighting the good fight. Remember Thursday, if we're able to do that live, it's going to be the live event that I'm doing in California, Missouri. We're going to show the event and show the speech. If we're not able to do that, we'll get that up and posted the next day. And we might take a look at trying to do a replacement live if we're not able to get in there. But I want you to know something. I care about you. I'm thinking about you. We're fighting the good fight with you and for you. Keep up the hard work. Keep pushing. Keep striving. There's one thing I can promise you. If we push back, if we fight the good fight, we'll win. We will 100% win because we are smarter, we are stronger, we are more caring, we have a louder voice when it's combined together. We will win. Have a great night, everybody.